Okay, so today I'm working in the container shop. What's today's project? I'm going to build a axle stand. Now that we have to take the frame apart for the Chev, one of the jobs that we're going to have to do is rebuild both the front and the rear axles. They need new bearings. We want to obviously check the gears inside and all that other sort of stuff. And instead of working on the floor, I figured, you know what? Why not just work with a little bit more comfort and have it kind of a little bit more level and stuff like that. So I figured that's what I would do today. So quick look around here. Not a lot to see. Used to have a lot more space before I stuck a car in here, but I guess that's the problem you have when you have a few cars and you don't have a lot of places to store them that are kind of out of the way. But that's okay, I'm gonna work around it. I'm gonna focus on just making the whole thing out of wood. I think that's pretty easy, just overbuild it the best I can. The engine stands that I built a few weeks ago, those ones have turned out really well and they're holding up quite fine, so I don't see there being much of a problem there. So I'm gonna get started, get my measurements figured out, get my wood figured out, and then I'll be back and I'll explain a little bit more as far as the height and size and all that sort of stuff goes. So here's what we've got to work with. A bunch of scraps. I think there's more than enough to make the bench that we're going to need. Figured why throw all this wood out when it can be reused. There's plenty of it here. The biggest thing, or the kind of the toughest challenge, I suppose you could say, is the fact that I'm gonna have to take a bunch of screws and nails out, but well worth it. Save a couple bucks, recycle, and end up with something pretty cool. So I've cut each of my legs to 26 inches. How did I come to that number? Well, on one hand, I'm flying by the seat of my pants. But on the other, I measured my workbench here to see that it actually comes out to about 32.5 inches, which is a little bit tall because I went and grabbed one of the jack stands that we're gonna have and having it sit on here, once you get the rear end in, it's gonna be a little bit too high. I think we want it to be a little bit lower. Then I have to also take into account the height of the casters, which are probably going to be about 3 to 4 inches. So that will get us up in and around the 30 range, drop that down a couple inches, and then that should work perfectly. So the next step is to cut the top and start doing some assembly. So my dimensions here are 24 by 62. The reason that I went with 24 was that I measured the base of this jack stand here and it came out to around 13 inches. By going 24, it gives a little bit of space on either side to make sure that it's not going to go right to the edge and there's a little bit of area to work around and set tools down and stuff like that. So that what I'll do now is I'm going to brace it. I'll put the legs in first, then I'll brace it and hope that I can get it out of here after I've built it, since the back end of the car is a bit of the way, as you can see, but I think we'll be able to poke it out the door there. so the basic frame is done. What I've gone and done here is I've cribbed this. I don't even know if that's the right word to use, but it sounds right to me. Anyway, I've cribbed this so that when I flip it over, I can put some plywood on top. I've got some 3/4 inch sheets I'm going to stack two on, one on top of the other. That should make things nice and strong. The other thing that I did here too was I came up 8 inches from the base. The reason that I did that is, and I had read this actually online somewhere, is that somebody else had made, when they had made theirs out of metal, but they made the bottom braces a little bit higher, so then that way you can actually get the engine hoist underneath them, and then you can pick the rear end up and set it back down on without having to bust your back trying to pick things up. And when you're getting old like us, well, sometimes any little extra bit helps. It does look like it's overbuilt. That's something that Tim and I prescribe to all the time, is overbuild it like crazy, because then there's no chance of it falling apart and anybody getting hurt. This is going to be super heavy by the time it's done. I know that we're going to grunt and groan when we have to load it in the back of the truck and bring it down to the shop. But once it's there, that's great, and then we don't need to worry about anything else. Next step up then is getting some casters, putting those guys on, then flipping it over, putting the top on, and then it's done. I might actually, when I go out to get the casters, grab some lag bolts as well and just lag the corners here just to be safe and make it that extra bit stronger. So there we go. It's on the floor. Rollers are working. All that's left to do now is put the top on. I'll go grab that, bolt it down. I did add some lags in there. So there we are. It is all done. Height ended up coming out to about 31.5 inches. So it might be a little bit tall, which is fine, because what we can do then is just cut off the 4x4s at the bottom there to bring it down a little bit. We've definitely got lots to play with. I'm just thinking in terms of height, taking axles out, putting axles back in if it might be a little bit too high, because these guys are bottomed right out. But we'll see. I mean, that's great to be able to play around with that. 2 3/4 inch pieces of plywood on there, but I think what we'll probably do is get a metal top made for it. Its overall length ended up being 62 inches long, like I said, 31.5 high. Overall, I'm quite happy with it, and we'll get it down to the garage and get the rear end on it and see how it works out. It's pretty sturdy, so it's not going to go anywhere. Came up short a little bit here, but that was the whole thing with the metal plate. We won't even notice that. It'll be all ready to go. So it's taken a little bit of time, but I finally got the tabletop made, and, well, actually, I didn't make it. Tri-Town Welding made it, and I picked it up yesterday, and so Tim came down to give me a hand, and we're going to just flip it on top of the table, which we've already been using, which you'll probably see in a later episode. Yes, I believe. But now we can get this off and we won't end up with as much of a mess. And it'll be all nice to use. So away we go. Doesn't that look nice?
So this is already chained up and everything?
Yep.
Wow.
Yep. Be easy breezy.
Well, you can prop your end up and then you won't even have to hold it. I can hold the whole thing. I got it.
Okay.
Oop. And there you go. We're down.
What do you think?
Perfect. That's great.
So there we go. Table's all done, all set to continue working. We're not gonna have to deal now with a bunch of oil and everything seeping into the wood. I might make some more permanent stands down the road. But the thing about this was it was super inexpensive to build. I had some used wood, well, or leftover wood, I should say. Plus, and then got a great deal on the tabletop. It was around $100, and we'll be able to use this for all sorts of different projects. He uses it as a welding table too, really, right? So that's it. Thanks for watching, folks. I hope that you enjoyed this episode. It was a lot of fun making this table. Make sure to click that like button, click the subscribe button, and that way you can stay up to date with everything that's going on, because we've always got something in the works. Have a good one, folks.